welcome back in, everybody. Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn, Sports Tape, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. If you could smash that like button, friends, we do appreciate it. All right, joining us now, you can check out his podcast, Legal Hands the Face, on not only wherever you get your podcast, but also starting on JAKIB Sports. He is Bill Colarulo. Bill, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
What's up,
Thanks, guys. What's up, D-Gun? How you doing, buddy?
Good, and you, man?
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good,
yeah,
bro.
so Bill, tell us about what Legal Hands to Face is. What's it all about?
So I am chasing the sports talk dream, Rob. So I'm an attorney, practiced law for about 15 years, was a trial lawyer, but the true passion was always Philadelphia sports, especially the Philadelphia Eagles. So I started this podcast about 6 months ago now, and the support's been great. The growth's been great. Just turned 40. I decided, you know what? I want to die with memories, not dreams. Sold my law practice, and I am all in.
Wow.
Okay.
I was just about to ask you, is this like a side job, or are you going to do both, but you just said you so this is what you call taking a leap of faith. Why did you wait this long to pursue something like this?
You know, I had a successful law practice. I had a great business partner. Him and I grew a wonderful firm, still there. It's called Grungo Law now. Great people. We have about 35 staff members who were just phenomenal people. And it was tough to leave all of them. But at the same time, I said, you know what? I've done it. I went to law school. I've tried cases. I've taken cases to juries and been able to tell clients stories. But now I want to pursue the dream. So really, I got kind of the best of both worlds. I got to do the professional stuff. But now it's so much easier, I got to tell you, talking about things that people like. Because before I was trying to talk about the law and car accidents, and people like the Eagles, thankfully. It's a lot easier talking about things people like than things people don't like. And not a lot of people like lawyers.
Give us an example, Bill, of the craziest, trial or any sort of weird, we'll get into Eagles in a second, but I'm always curious about this kind of stuff.
So I would probably say the strangest one I had was there was a brutal murder in Gloucester County, New Jersey. And the family hired me. I was a civil lawyer. So the family hired me to bring a civil lawsuit against the murderer.
Okay.
And I did it. I was able to get a big judgment against them. And then Fox 29 did a piece, and I'm on the news talking about how we're going to go after this guy and all that. And then one of the lawyers in my office says, aren't you a little bit nervous?
Right.
You're talking about a murderer. I said, yeah, I didn't even think about that. But no, it was nice. The beautiful part about the type of law I practiced is we represented people. We represented individuals, and I was usually getting them money for something that happened in their life. So when they were finished with my representation, I was handing them a check as opposed to what a lot of people are used to, which is handing a lawyer a check. So that's what I liked about it. But now we're pursuing the dreams, man. So we're here, and it's an exciting time for the Philadelphia Eagles fans. That's for sure.
No doubt.
So are you just going to hone in on football, or are you going to cover the whole gamut of sports?
So Legal Hands to the Face, my podcast, that's going to start streaming every Monday night live during the season. It's now available on all the social platforms and all the podcast platforms. We're all Philadelphia Eagles. So I grew up ice hockey player, baseball player, played football as well, went on to play college and coached football. So I've really focused on the Eagles, but I'm a 4-for-4 guy. I mean, I love all the sports. I heard you guys talking earlier. I'd give Trey Turner the ovation tonight. I think booing him hasn't worked. So let's try something different. Let's try to support the guy tonight and see what happens.
Interesting.
And, let me ask you like I asked Rob. Do you know what city you're in? You forgot what city you're in?
You know what it is, though, and I know it's been compared a lot to Alec Boehm from last year, is once the guy comes out and admits how bad things have been and says, look, I'm the reason we lost the game. That's all our fans need. We just don't want to hear excuses. We don't want to see people not trying. I don't think Trey's not trying. The guy's just in a slump. So, look at Brian Dawkins, who's beloved here. He didn't have the greatest game every single week, but what everybody loved about him is he put his all on the field no matter what. And I think as long as people are trying, we're going to be supportive, even in Philadelphia.
All right. So, Bill, let's talk birds here. We had Ray Didinger on a little bit earlier. We were running through some things with him. But from your standpoint, the outlook of this is an unbelievably talented team, but we know the odds are stacked against anybody trying to make a repeat run, whether that's winning the NFC again or winning the Super Bowl. So why are they different in your estimation?
Man, you're not kidding. No team's repeat as an NFC East in almost 20 years. and no NFC team has gone back to the Super Bowl after losing in almost 50 years. So they got a real uphill battle and the toughest schedule in the league. But I think what really separates them, and I was on with Jody Mack this morning, and I said the combination between quarterback and head coach of Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni is by far the best in the NFC. Not the NFL. AFC's got a lot of quarterbacks and head coaches, but you look around the NFC, who can even compare to that duo between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni? And I think that's what's really going to help carry the day where they try to go through this brutal stretch in the middle of that schedule.
When you look at this offense in particular, where do you think it can improve, if any?
Definitely the pass-catching threat out of the backfield. I mean, we saw last year, as good as Miles Sanders was, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and Kenny Gainwell all combined for only 48 catches. Well, DeAndre Swift had 48 catches himself last year in Detroit. The year before that, he had over 60 catches. As a rookie, he had over 40 catches. So as good as the offense was, that's something that's really lacked since the Andy Reid days when we had those great screen teams. So I think you bring a guy like DeAndre Swift, it can really add an element to this offense that defenses are now going to have to game plan for. And you add that element along with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Hopefully Dallas Goedert stays healthy this year. I think if he stays healthy, he could be an all-pro tight end. He's that good. And you still have the threat of Jalen Hurts running out of the backfield. How do you game plan for that as a defense? So I really think that pass-catching threat can raise this team to another level from the offensive side of the ball.
All right, I think we all agree offensively they're in pretty good shape, but defensively there's a lot of changes. 7 starters gone from last year, new defensive coordinator, new coaching staff on that side of the ball. What makes you think this defense will be able to keep up with the offense, or will they not be able to?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to win some games this year just by outscoring the other team because the offense is going to be that good. I've been concerned about the defense since they let TJ Edwards and Kazir White walk. I was okay with them letting Kazir White walk. I thought he had an up and down year last year, but I was a lot higher on TJ Edwards than a lot of people were. I don't think we gave him the credit he deserved last year. Led the team in tackles, top 7 in the NFL in tackles, wore the green dot, played 94% of the defensive snaps. And clearly the Chicago Bears felt like they were upgrading the linebacker position. They let Nicholas Morrow walk and paid TJ Edwards a lot more money. So I think that that's going to be a position where I know we're putting a lot of hope on the Kobe Dean to be the guy he was at Georgia, but he's a guy we've only seen play 34 defensive snaps. And outside of him, you saw what happened the last 2 days of training camp. Dean's out. They're dropping Derek Barnett back there, Nolan Smith. I mean, there's a lot of question marks at that backup linebacker position. Who's going to play the weak side linebacker? Is it going to be Morrow? I know a lot of guys are excited about this Christian Ellis, but he's another guy. He's only really played special teams. So a lot of unknowns at that linebacker position. That's a concern I have. But I think where the Eagles do value, we know they don't value the linebacker position, but what they do value is that defensive line, and I think that's going to have to carry the day again like it did last year. I was upset they lost Javon Hargrave, but I'm okay with what the 49ers paid him. No way the Eagles were going to match that. But then they go out and bring in Jalen Carter in the draft, and I'm very excited to see what another year of Jordan Davis is going to look like, especially a healthy year. You know, last year he had that lower leg injury on a guy that big. That's going to impact you all season long. But a lot of people are talking about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, but the D tackle that I'm most excited to see this year is Milton Williams. Going into his 3rd year, we saw him improve year after year on the Eagles squad. And did you see pictures of that guy? I mean, he looks like an absolute beast coming into the season this year. So I'm really excited to see what Milton Williams can do. And you bring back Fletcher Cox for another year. So the D tackle position, I think, is going to be solid. And then our edge rushers, my goodness. You talk about being deep at a position with Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith. They restructured Derek Barnett. I don't have much confidence that he's going to be able to do much this year, but you bring back Brandon Graham too. So I think that defensive line is really going to have to carry the day because in addition to the linebacker question mark, we didn't get into the safeties yet. And that's another big one.
Do you subscribe to the notion of giving Reed Blankenship as much time as possible to solidify that spot? Or are you like a lot of people, let's expedite the learning curve of Sidney Brown and get him in there?
And I think that I like the way they're bringing Sidney Brown along. The guy is a young guy. If you watched him at Illinois, he's an exciting player to watch, throws his body around. If he can play at the NFL level, I think he's instantly going to be a fan favorite in Philadelphia because of the way he brings it. But he's got a lot to learn. I mean, there's a reason why he was drafted in the third round, I believe. So he's got a lot to learn. I don't think you just throw a rookie like that in. Let him come along slowly. Let him learn a little bit. But if he is the guy that we saw at Illinois, throwing his body around, I'm not saying he's Brian Dawkins, not comparing him to Brian Dawkins from a player's perspective, but he has that same level of intensity on how he throws his body around, and the fans in Philly will love him.
Right guard. Looking at Cam Jurgens, at least the leader in the clubhouse, some people have concerns. I know Ray Didinger's concerned about the size of he and Kelsey lining up next to one another. Does that concern you at all?
You know, it's interesting. I saw that a lot in the offseason. Didinger, I think Brian Baldinger also were concerned about Jurgens' size. I know that these players list themselves at different sizes than they actually are. I did the same thing when I played. But Jurgens was listed at 302. Isaac Sayamala was listed at 304. So as far as how they were listed, not a drastic difference between size, but the eye test tells you otherwise. Sayamala is a little bit bigger of a guy. But from what we saw from Cam Jurgens in the preseason last year, I know it was at the center position, but you could see how athletic he is, how strong he is, and how smart of a player he is. And when you got a guy like that, Jason Kelsey is a prime example. You know how to use your leverage, and you know how to use your strength in your body. You can make up for being a little bit undersized. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as others do with his size. And clearly, I don't think the Eagles do either, because there really hasn't been a competition in training camp. You haven't seen Tyler Steen get a lot of reps at right guard. I know he did today because they moved Jurgens over to the center position. But it seems that this is Cam Jurgens' job, and there's really not even a competition there. So I'm pretty confident in Jurgens. I'm excited to see that offensive line, and I don't think you'll see them miss a beat this year.
The thing that's most interesting about this Eagles team is they're such a complete team, and yet they're such a team with so many question marks as well going in. I mean, this team has been decimated by deletions in the coaching ranks as well as personnel. And then you look at the teams that they're going to face on this schedule. Give me your perspective on who you think the biggest threat is to this Eagles team, or a number of teams who you think could be a big threat to this team in the NFC this year.
Yeah, I think the obvious one that everyone talks about is the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, the good thing the Eagles have going for us is the 49ers team. Who's going to be their quarterback? Is Brock Purdy going to be healthy? Is Trey Lance ready? Is it Sam Darnold? So that's the one weakness that the 49ers have. But outside of that, they have a great defense. Between them and the Eagles, the two best defensive lines in the NFC. So I think they're the obvious one. But there's another one that it pains me to say as an Eagles fan, and it's the Dallas Cowboys. I know they've taken a step back. I know a lot of people don't have confidence in Dak Prescott. He's been a turnover machine. But in his career, he's 27-7 against the NFC East. He's 8-3 against the Eagles, 9-2 against the Commanders, and 10-2 against the New York Giants. So as bad as Dak Prescott has been, and it's been bad at times, he hasn't been bad against the NFC East. And if the Eagles want to repeat as NFC East champs for the first time in almost 20 years, they have to figure out a way to beat Dak Prescott, because they really haven't been able to do it.
How far behind do you think the defense will be versus the offense?
I think it's going to be really far behind, because not only are you replacing a bunch of players, you have a brand new defensive coordinator. The benefit on the offensive side of the ball is this is a Jalen Hurts offense. This is a Nick Sirianni offense. Brian Johnson's been here for a couple years. He's got experience with Jalen Hurts, played for his dad. So what I'm concerned about on the offensive side of the ball is some of the in-game play calling. I know that goes – Brian Johnson spoke yesterday about how a lot of that play calling is done in the game planning throughout the week, and that's true. But the questions that I have are that in-game feel. We've all watched the games. You've seen how good Shane Steichen was, how good Doug Peterson was in 2017. You have to have a feel for the game and being able to call the right plays at the right time. And I'm confident Brian Johnson will get there, but that's something you'll have to see him go through some growing pains. But on the defensive side of the ball, everything's new. New linebackers, new safeties, whole new defensive scheme. I know it's going to be similar to what Jonathan Gannon ran. But Sean Desai is going to put his own wrinkles on it. Even so far in training camp, something that Gannon didn't really do a lot last year, that 3 safety look they've been experimenting with. So, you're going to see some different things. You just have to hope that that defensive line is going to be talented enough that they're going to put pressure on the quarterback. And especially from that defensive tackle position, if they can cause interior pressure on the quarterback, that disrupts a lot of things. And that can make up for a lot of problems on the back end with your safeties if you're putting pressure on a quarterback from that interior.
Does Quez Watkins lock down the slot position?
I was one of the guys in the offseason saying they have to upgrade that slot receiver position because Quez Watkins really took a step back last year. I know Sirianni's come out and said, hey, on tape, we're happy with what Quez is doing, but he really missed out on some opportunities last year. They lost that Commanders game because of a couple turnovers, some mistakes. And then in that Super Bowl, that was a big drop by Quez Watkins. I know it would have been a tough catch, but if he catches that ball that hit his hands, we may be talking about another parade on Broad Street. So I was a little bit down on Quez, but from all accounts, he's come into camp. He's got the right mindset. He worked hard in the offseason. He's got a ton of talent. I mean, he's fast as can be. But does he have that slot position locked down? From what you're seeing so far in camp, I think so. But I'm also excited to see what that Olamide Zaccheaus can do. Local kid from St. Joe's Prep. On a team last year, the Falcons, who had some pretty up and down quarterback play between Mariota and Ritter, Olamide put up some numbers. He had more receiving yards than Quez Watkins, had more catches than Quez Watkins. So I think you'll see Olamide Zaccheaus work his way in a little bit, but I still think Sirianni's high on Quez, and he hasn't done anything this camp so far. It's still early to change that. So I do think Watkins is going to be your wide receiver 3.
So what worries you, Bill? What concerns you going into this thing, aside from, nobody ever seems to repeat? What worries you about the squad?
One of the areas that I'm still concerned about, and we're not talking about it a lot, is the special teams unit. And I think that if Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen didn't leave for head coaching jobs, I think you would have seen the Eagles make a change at the special teams coordinator with Michael Clay. But I think Nick Sirianni probably decided, I don't want to have to replace all 3 coordinators. Just having to replace the offensive and defensive coordinator after a Super Bowl, there's only been 2 teams since 1994 that went to a Super Bowl that had to replace both coordinators. You got to go all the way back to the 94 49ers and the 2004 Patriots, who had to replace both offensive and defensive coordinator. But that special teams unit really struggled last year under Michael Clay. They got away with it all season, but it came back to haunt us at the worst time on that Kadarius Toney punt return. But you look at the numbers from last year, they were in the bottom 3 for kickoff returns against. They were in the bottom 2 for net punting yards. And it wasn't like their return game was that great either. They were in the middle of the pack for both of those. So that's an area that still concerns me. And the problem there is your depth players have to be able to play special teams. They have to be able to contribute there. I'm hopeful guys like Sidney Brown, maybe Keely Ringo can step in and solidify that unit. But the special teams unit has to be better. And then the question marks that we just mentioned too. That defense, the middle linebacker position, the weak side linebacker position, the safeties, are they going to be good enough? And God forbid of injuries. Last year, it was unheard of for all 22 starters on opening day to play in the Super Bowl. If guys get hurt this year, are they deep enough at that linebacker position, at that safety position? And you mentioned Quez Watkins. God forbid A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith goes down. Are they deep enough at the wide receiver position to overcome it? So I really think health is a big issue, special teams is a big issue, and then linebacker and safety. Those are the things that I'd like to see get solidified.
Bill, in some ways, do you think Nick Sirianni is underappreciated? I mean, his team as a whole and both sides of the ball last year accomplished so many tremendous things statistically. And sometimes people forget, well, you have one guy who puts it all together. And the conversation has gone back and forth all off season about just how appreciated is the Nick Sirianni. How do you perceive it?
You talking on a national level or in the city of Philadelphia?
Both. On both.
I think in the city of Philadelphia, he's pretty loved. I really do. I think, sometimes I think we do lose sight of the fact of how smart of a football mind he may be because he's such a rah-rah, rocking the T-shirts, mugging to the camera on the sidelines. But this guy is a smart football coach. And what I loved most about him, and I think we appreciate it here in Philly, and I'm not sure it gets appreciated as much nationally, is he really came in and created a great culture on this Eagles team. He talks about it, being able to connect with your players, not only on the field, but outside of that locker room. And I think we have, and it stems from Jalen Hurts as well, but Nick Sirianni's preaching it at the top, is we have a very close-knit team. These guys really seem to care about one another. There's not a lot of drama going into this season like you may have on other teams. That's why I was so mad the question got asked to Hassan Reddick yesterday about being underpaid, because really we have no drama on this team. Expectations are through the roof, and everybody seems to be working towards the same goal. So, on a national level, maybe Sirianni's not getting the credit he deserves because of some of the things he does on the sidelines. But I think in Philly, he's pretty loved, which is, talk about a 180 after that first press conference he had to start his coaching career. And now I don't think he'll ever buy a drink again. I've seen him. I live in New Jersey, and he's handing out shots at Brewers over in Haddon Township. People just absolutely love the guy.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy. Bill, all right, so tell everybody again, Legal Hands to Face. Where can they check it out, and when will we be seeing you on JAKIB?
So we're on all your favorite social media platforms, Legal Hands to the Face. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. We're everywhere. And as far as the podcast, any podcast platform you're using, Legal Hands to the Face. And then starting with the first game of the season, we're going to be live streaming our show right here on the JAKIB Sports Network every single Monday night at 6:30. So be sure to like, subscribe, share. The more Eagles fans we could reach, the better.
Awesome. Bill,
welcome aboard, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good luck with everything, and we're looking forward to chatting. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys having me on. I like watching you guys, so glad to be a part of it.
Appreciate
it. Take care, Bill. Have a good day. You
You're
got
good.
it.
Same to you.
Bill Colarulo. Legal Hands to the Face. So check it out, Gunner. That's for sure. I wanted to pass this along. We're going to dive really headlong into our NFL stuff in a second, but Cole Hamels has officially retired.
Yeah.
He gave it a couple goes, a few years, Atlanta, San Diego, some other places.
Texas at one point.
Yes, the Rangers. Yeah, it didn't quite work out for him. Injuries and some other stuff set him back. But calling it a career, and look, a guy who won an NLCS and World Series MVP for the Phillies. So he deserves some love, man. He had a hell of a career here, and he was a heck of a Philly. He was one of the few homegrown pitching talents that really turned out to be that guy. So he was a hell of a pitcher for this team in this organization.
The thing is, in the time that we covered him, you look at him and you look at the success that he had in Philadelphia. He wasn't the biggest guy. I mean, he was tall, like 6'2", but he was a thinner guy. It's like he had power behind his pitches, but you know what? He was kind of like an Aaron Nola, like in some ways. Great breaking pitches, sneaky fastball, but he was more consistent when he was here than Aaron has been this year. I hate to keep bringing that up, but he was more consistent. But in his heyday, he was a heart and soul of that pitching staff, no question about it.
Absolutely. He was the ace.
When he stepped to the hill, it was like you automatically knew it was going to be a win. Whether it was a 2-1 game or whatever, the 1-0 game, you knew he was going to give you a solid 6-7 innings. I just love the way he pitched. Man, he was a cool, calm customer. Nothing seemed to rattle him. No moment too high, no moment too low. And of course, he was surrounded by great talent on that team as well.
Yeah, no, he was, but he was really good. I know. I guess everybody from that team's done now. All retired. And it's crazy, but that's kind of where they're at. I would assume, you're going to see at some point, I would think sooner rather than later, you're going to see Howard's number 6 retire, Jimmy Rollins 11, 26 for Utley. Nobody wears those. They have been wearing 35. So I don't know if Cole will get his number quite retired, but the other ones will be and should be, that much for sure. Let me sprinkle in a little on this date, which I know you'll appreciate. So it was on this date 30 years ago, 1993, when Nolan Ryan, who was still pitching, I think he was 45, whatever he was, hit Robin Ventura. You remember Ventura came after and Nolan Ryan tuned him up.
For the White Sox?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Now, don't mess with the old man. Do not mess with the old man. He took him out, man.
Ventura charged that mound, and Nolan Ryan put him in a front headlock and just
he was like giving him noogies like you give, when you're a kid,
And I always remember when Nolan was asked about that moment, Nolan said, growing up, he grew up on a farm and they had to wrestle steers, to brand them and stuff. Yeah. So that's how he learned that front headlock. When the steers were young, he learned from manhandling those young steers so he could brand them. He used that move on Ventura.
Yeah, he steered Ventura. That's for sure.
Ventura probably thought his life was being choked out of him.
But that's one of the all-timers, man. Do not mess with Nolan Ryan. That's for sure.
Nolan Ryan will always be one of my favorite pitchers because the man was in his mid-40s still throwing close to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just different. He was that guy, man. Just different. That's
we talk about the freaks of nature in sports like Tom Brady in football. Nolan Ryan was that guy in baseball, man. And the thing is, the dude hardly worked out. All these guys that day and age are working out, building muscle. He hardly worked out, and he didn't pitch a lot. He didn't throw a lot in his off time. Mm-hmm. But he stepped to the hill, and when you said Nolan, the Ryan Express, it was coming right down the pike. And a lot of guys just could not touch it, man.
He had perfect mechanics too.
Yes.
I mean, he was just the compact, just drive with the legs, the whole thing. It was perfection. All right, let's come back. It is NFL time, D-Gun. Guys getting extensions, guys traveling other places, some Tua stuff, some Lion stuff, Gruden, John Gruden in the news as well. We'll hit all of that kind of thing when we come back. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you right now about Flynn Tree Services. Yes, Flynn Tree Services, licensed, experienced, insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face. They specialize in tree removal, stump grinding, as well as tree pruning. Keep in mind, you can go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's Flynn Tree Services.